Hello duels, it's Tom Barks here, welcome to MST.TV, and this is a video to learn about Elementsabers. They are the sub-archetype to the Element Lords, similar to the Squires, to the Monarchs, and this stuff is coming out in Flames of Destruction. Now, why do we want to learn about this now? Because I actually believe that this archetype does have a lot of potential to becoming a very high tier deck. Now, this is just my prediction, I could be completely wrong, but seeing that there could be like a ban list or two in between, and if Konami wants to promote their sales, this is actually one deck that seems very fun to play, has high potential, and has some very devastating plays, which is why I kind of regard it in such a, well, it's such a high fashion. Anyways, so what's so special about this deck? And before I go into this profile or anything and talk about it, I did a fiery food challenge earlier today, and my stomach is just killing me for it. So I have a vlog for that if you guys want to watch that coming up. Yeah, just stay tuned, subscribe if you want to see that. But anyways, let's talk about the Elementsabers and the Elemental Lord and how they kind of synergize, work together. So one gimmick about this deck is that every single card in this deck has a cost to send Elementsaber cards from your hand to the graveyard. You're like, oh my god, that already sounds pretty bad. True, but they also have a kick-ass field spell to mitigate that cost. So you can actually, once per turn, if you're going to pay the cost from your hand, you can actually pay it from the deck, which ultimately turns your field spell into the biggest foolish burial ever. And the Elemental Lords, if you guys know what they do, if you carry 5 of the same attribute, you can special summon them from your hand. Exactly 5, by the way. And actually, let's get into this. Alright, for this deck profile here, consider it as a wireframe, so change it up as you need to, change up the legality of the format, change it up to whatever that makes you feel more comfortable or feel faster, more effective, because this is an online profile. Most of the stuff isn't out yet. It's not even in the current format, so likely things are going to change. So that's just my little notice for you guys. And regarding the effects of Elementsabers, note that most of them, except for Williard, have the effect and the cost of sending a Elementsaber from your hand to the graveyard to actually trigger their effect. So that's the cost part that I don't really want to repeat through and throughout, so just a heads up for that too. So the great thing about the Elementsabers is that the level 4 or lower ones, they're all able to change their attribute in the graveyard, facilitating the needs of the Elemental Lord, because the Elemental Lord summoning condition requires us to have exactly the right amount of attributes in the graveyard. Therefore, having that flexibility means that as long as you get 5 of them in the graveyard, you can always summon out the Elemental Lord in your hand. So that part is really good, and even some other boss monsters are able to kind of utilize that as well, like a BLS, Dark Arm Dragon. Those all work as well. Can you imagine Dark Arm Dragon summoned out onto the field, and then you change everything else into dark after you had the 3 darks, and now you just have enough ammo to pop everything on the field. It's kind of a little fun thought there. Okay, so going into this deck list, note that I'm not running Grinder Golem, but if you can shove in a Grinder Golem, please do so if that's to your taste, because it does make the deck better, and Skull Deed is available by the time that this deck is released. So just a heads up why I'm not running Grinder Golem in here. If you want to play it, play it. Now we have Elemental Lord. Of course, we have Force Orage. This is the Raigeki equivalent. We have Moulinglacia, which is the equivalent of Delinquent Duel, and you can actually do it on the first turn, and I'll show you guys how to do it coming up. We also have Williard. Now, Williard is actually one that actually deserves a little explanation because he's quite different, and he's also one of your biggest win condition and your biggest protection. Now, unlike the other Elementsabers, this one can't change attribute, but it does offer protection for all your Elemental Lord and Elementsaber monster, depending on how you summon him out. He has a summoning condition of sending 2 monsters from your hand to the graveyard, and depending if those are Elementsabers, the attributes will change the protection that it offers to everyone. So if it's Earth or Wind, Battle Destruction Immunity. If it's a Water or Fire, then you get Card Effect Destruction Immunity. And if it's a Light or a Dark, then you'll get the Targeting Immunity. And all in all, you'll get 2 at the very least. And if you actually manage to summon 2 of the Williards onto the field, then you have the ultimate protection for all your monsters, making them all stick on the board much, much longer. And this actually offers the best board protection. Now, but then you're like, oh my god, you have to send cards from your hand to the graveyard. Of course, you can mitigate that cost with the field spell, because you can, once per turn, you can send your cost from the deck to instead of from your hand. So that is huge. Let's go into the other cards. You have Moulinglacia. I'm going to pronounce his name in a bit weird way. Moulinglacia is a Book of Moon with a cost, and also your big beater, and also very useful in the mirror match. We also have Lapa Ulia, which is your Shien, or your spell trap negation with a cost. We have Malo, which is a Foolish Burial with a cost. We have Nalu, which is Monster Reincarnation equivalent. Then we have Aina. Now, Aina is a bit of a more interesting monster. It is a monster reborn with a cost, but Aina is able to special summon out your elemental lords out of the graveyard. And don't forget, all elemental lords activate when they're special summoned. Now, all elemental lords do carry the effect of this card cannot be special summoned. So it does ignore summoning condition, but remember the rulings of ignoring summoning condition, which is it still has to be summoned properly the first time if it's coming from the graveyard or from the banished area. So that's just a little heads up. Makani is your costly searcher. You can discard or send one to search one, and it includes the elemental lords. Now to the stuff that's not related to the deck, we have our Ash Blossom Joyous Springs, one Max C, one Gofu, mainly to set up Skull Deet or maybe just tech out of your opponent's board, and one Planet Pathfinder. Why am I running this thing? It's because I realize not having the field spell gives you no board presence whatsoever, and your board is super weak, and everything is super costly. Unless you somehow open with the trap and a scapegoat, then you can start to kind of play your way through. It is still very difficult to actually play this deck without the field spell, kind of handling most of the cost. So getting that field spell is super important. Now, one Upstart Goblin to kind of thin out the deck. We have Salvage. Don't forget you can change your attributes. So your 1500 or lower Elementsabers, if you change them to water, you can put them back in your hand. Therefore, you can handle more cost or potentially get back like Aina to revive another monster, or get Makani to actually search another monster. Just you have that flexibility. Or you can even get Ulia to get that negation on the board once again. It's just +1. Now we have triple terraforming and one set rotation because you want to get that field spell as soon as you can, and that's why I'm running the set rotation, because it is so crucial. Even if I have draw that dead field spell, I don't mind it as long as I'm able to get my stuff going. And here we have the Temple of the Elemental Lords. This thing offers multiple effects. One of the more basic effect that it offers is that attack boost for all your monsters depending on the attribute in your graveyard. So for every different attribute, it's 200, and this game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Has 6 attributes, so your maximum boost is about 1200 attack. And that's a lot. Like, even 1000 boost is quite a bit. 1200, it's attack and defense. And once returned, you can search an Elementsaber monster from the deck to the hand, but it does come with a condition. Your next turn's battle phase is skipped. It doesn't say skip your next battle phase, it just says skip the battle phase of your next turn. So it's in the next turn. I don't know who came up with a weird ruling of, oh, if you don't declare that you entered the battle phase, you didn't skip your battle phase. You know what? There's just some weird rulings regarding that. I'm feeling that a lot of it just comes from these shady judges that are trying to help their friends. One Gateway to Chaos to kind of stun anyone that's playing field spells. We have one Rhoda because everything is a warrior, triple Scapegoat, and triple Element Training. Element Training is a very useful trap card. You're able to tribute a monster and summon out an Elementsaber that's of a different attribute. And you can also actually use it to retrieve every single elemental lord in your graveyard back into your hand by sending all cards in your hand to the graveyard. This thing also offers protection so that your field spell cannot be destroyed. So I would preemptively flip this one up if I were you, because keeping that field spell alive is one of the most crucial things to keep your gas going. Now for the extra deck, most of it is just for filler purposes and just text, but this is the one I'm going with right now. I have one Baguska. If I do need to use Baguska, really just help me God, because it must have been a really bad hand. We have a Phantom Knight's Breaksword. It's actually not too bad to go into a Breaksword, especially if you have the Williard protection. We have the Skull Deed, if you can actually get into it. We have Firewall, Decode Talker, Trisbana. We have Akashic Magician. Akashic, I would only run this one if I'm running Grinder. Aside from Grinder Golem, I don't think I need this. I might switch this for a Barrel Load Dragon instead. Now for the monster I am using for combo purposes, let's hope I don't butcher this name, Islode, the Noble Knight Link monster. You want to get yourself a free warrior monster when you link summon this card, but on top of that, you can actually send the guys into the graveyard, making her, and she's actually quite useful. You have Mrs. Radiant for the scapegoats. You also have Proxy Dragon, because it's Proxy Dragon, Underclock Taker, a pair of Link Spiders, and a Link Karibo. So that's the lineup I'm running with so far. I might change it up depending on the main deck, that if I actually change stuff up. Now, for the biggest weakness of this deck is that the first one is if you don't have the field spell from the opening hand, you're fighting an uphill battle right from the get-go. It is not very strong without it, and your board presence, even with some of the quick effect monsters, are very, very weak. You don't exactly run a strong line of back row, but you do have Scapegoat to keep you alive, and that's the reason why Scapegoat is there, to keep you alive and let you kind of go into Skuldy and kind of fix your hand as soon as possible. And losing your battle phase. Note that whenever you search with the temple, you are skipping your battle phase, and a lot of the times you're going to have trouble kind of keeping track of that, and you overcommit while you don't have a battle phase, and that is also another potential weakness. And one of the weaknesses actually beating this deck is knowing how to clear your Williard. If they know how to kill your Williard, you're going to lose, quite unfortunately, because Williard does have a bad timing, especially he always will have a weakness until you put 2 on the field, whether it be it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. If you actually make it so that he cannot be destroyed by card effects and can't target him, then your opponent's gonna kill him by battle. In other words, he always has one line of weakness to actually clear him, and most decks usually have enough efficiency to clear it. And ultimately, this whole deck really lacks defense aside from Williard, and you're not going to be able to stick around on the board for very much longer if Williard's not staying alive. So now I'm going to show you guys the demo of how to actually get the Moulinglacia out first turn and kind of the steps in between, how you can actually deviate that to different plays. And then I got a couple of replays just for fun. One is a mirror match of a player that was clearly superior in the mirror match, and another replay that was just kind of fun to kind of shut people down. Okay, for the turn 1 Moulinglacia play, start off with needing 2 copies of the Temple, the field spell, and it's actually very important that you actually have 2, because you need to mitigate the cost. So the first Temple you're going to use, and you're going to activate, and you're going to get yourself a search. You're going to search for Williard. You can activate Williard, and then you're going to use the cost from the deck. You're going to send yourself a fire and a wind. You need the wind, because wind is actually how you're going to get the search later. And you can just summon onto the board. That's all neat and fun. Now we're going to activate another copy of this. Now you can summon out your Aina. Aina is going to be very useful here. Activate Aina. You're going to send another card from the deck. I'm just going to send another attribute, say the light one. And now I'm going to revive Makani. I'm going to activate Makani. I'm going to send another Elemental Saber from the hand. And we add the Moulinglacia. And now I'm going to special summon out Islode. Yes, please. I would like to add the Elementsaber back to my hand. I could probably add another Williard. So the next turn I'll have a Williard again. And then now I'm going to summon out Moulinglacia by activating it and changing all of these into water. And once they all become water, you can special summon it onto the field. And now my opponent loses 2 cards. Now, looking at this play, you obviously have a ton of damage right now. You don't notice it yet, but you do have a variety of attributes here. You have a fire, light, dark, earth, and wind. That's 1,000 attack boost on all your monster, but right now everything is water, so you actually don't see it just yet. And the protection that you have is that your monster is indestructible by battle or indestructible by card effects, so this Moulinglacia is there to stick until this guy dies. But this guy is actually at 3,400 attack, and this is at 3,800 attack. And this is also at 2,600 attack, so everything here is pretty big. So that's the opening board. You can even summon more dudes if you actually have more options, especially if you have the trap. Oh god, the gas is coming up to me now. Like, if you have the trap, it just becomes a lot more safe, because now your temple is going to be safe and you're able to get another search. But note that you don't have a battle phase next turn. So that is the only consolation for your opponent at the very moment. So this is the turn 1 Moulin play. This here is a mirror match between 2 Elementsaber players. Although I get completely crushed, I use it as a teaching tool, which is why I still decided to record this and kind of find out where did I misplay, where did everything go wrong, and I realized it actually happened right at the beginning. And I'll pause it when the key factor kind of kicks in. So my opponent starts off, gets his Williard. Williard gets the immune to destruction effects. So he ends the board like this. He has a spell trap negation that's also immune to destruction and immune to battle. Yeah, overall he's off to a very good start, and a handful of sabers, and he has one cost that can be paid with the temple, and that's kind of the stuff I kept in mind. I'm like, he probably can negate one of my Sultan traps, so but then I have enough field spell access to actually go further. So this one gets negated, as expected. So the second one is the one that gets me my Williard. Similar types of immunity, but I go with Mao instead. Malo is just boosting my attack, and I'm just pushing for damage. And this is the key point where I actually start to lose. Because the clear fact is, he still has his Lapa Ulia on the field, and with Lapa Ulia still on the field, I will never be able to activate the elemental training to protect my field spell. And yeah, from there it's just gonna be downhill. Because even though I'm stronger in attack, he already carries the Molehu, so this is going to get flip face down, and very soon you'll see what kind of just snowballs out of control. So it goes to his turn. He puts a guy in defense mode, and now it's basically impossible to kill. He gets a free negation off of me, and he has a Force Barrage. Note that he does not have a battle phase because he did search with the temple. But now I'm staring death in the face. I'm like, I'll try to get myself a search. I have to get this one. I need to get the second search to go through too. And that wasn't going through. And that basically ends my game. That GG's me out of the game because I wasn't able to search the Williard, and without the Williard, I'm definitely not staying alive in this game anymore. So yeah, that's how it goes. I was completely outclassed. The tempo was completely in his favor. So yeah, don't fall into my mistake. Find some way to clear off the Lapa. If you can actually clear off the Lapa, it's actually more important to clear off this guy than the Williard in that very moment. As for this replay, this is just a fun game that was one of my earlier games. I was still playing Metaverse because I was trying to fetch the field spell. I didn't realize that it was a bit too slow at the time, but this is how it actually turned out. It was actually kind of fun because you have the field spell, you can just really just go off on your opponent. Ow, that was kind of painful. And here we go. This replay kind of highlights just having the field spell axes. Like, how good is it actually? It is quite devastating for my opponent. Now note that I didn't have a battle phase for that turn. Yeah, not a very smart move there. And from there, he kind of just gave up. Yeah, so you can actually try to run Windrose as well. Windrose is definitely a pretty good option, especially if you play against any deck that has a ton of back row. You can even side deck it. You don't have to run all the Elemental Lords, but opening a handful of them is definitely bad. And that is all I got for you guys today. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit me with a thumbs up. If you guys want to see more stuff from MST.TV, hit that subscribe button. I am going to Japan in the near future, like end of the month. So for that week, it will be a Japan vlogging thing where I will try to find some OCG stuff. Gotta check out the stores with like all the OCG products and whatnot. And that will be kind of a fun experience to kind of see what is it like in OCG land. Until next time, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please drop us a like so we know we are doing a good job, and you can also subscribe to MST.TV for more fantastic videos by clicking on the button on the left. Don't forget to check out our partners at Imperium Duelist. They make really high quality mats, including some of my own limited edition release stuff. And if you want to check out one of our past videos, click here on the right. As always, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV, and I'll see you next time.